We like to describe this as a global catastrophe in slow motion. The productivity losses, you put together the healthcare costs, the medical costs, it's astronomical.
And that's when the real problems that can lead to amputation begin.
유엔에서는 에이즈만큼 인간 생명에 치명적인 질병이 당뇨라고 했다는 것 알고 계셨습니까?
I was shocked when I found out I had diabetes. Suddenly I had to give myself an insulin shot in the stomach.
2020년 기준 한국인들의 기대 수명은 83.5세로 세계 6위라고 하는데요. 기대 수명이 길어진 것과 무병장 수는 다른 문제입니다. 세계보건기구에서 조사한 인류 사망 원인 상위권에는 심장병, 폐질환과 같은 질병이 빠지지 않습니다. 하지만 2000년 이후로 80% 이상 발병률이 증가하여 전 세계적으로 많은 남성들을 사망에 이르게 한 질병은 다름 아닌 당뇨입니다.
The elevated blood sugar levels carry the threat of complications. Many diseases can develop. Microvascular problems are the main concern and can occur in the eyes and kidneys.
약물의 도움 없이 당뇨를 극복하는 방법을 정리했습니다.
As the consumer society emerged in the 1960s, a second kind of diabetes, type 2, started to become more common. Lifestyles and eating habits were changing.
Go on, take it. All right, Mum.
People started consuming more fats and sugars and exercising less. The pancreas had to start secreting more and more insulin to offset the high levels of glucose or sugar in the blood, and sometimes it would stop working properly. The amount of sugar in food continually increased during the 20th century. Processed meals, soft drinks, and foods rich in carbohydrates were consumed in large amounts.
Diabetes are making a lot of money. It's a wonderful world for the diabetes pharmaceutical.
So if you have too much sugar, what happens is that some of that is going to go into the stores. But as long as your stores are not full, it's not going to spill over into the blood. If you don't have filled up stores of sugar, what's going to happen is that you're going to fill it up a little bit, right? But it's fine. Now what happens in the diabetic situation is something like this. And now here's the situation in diabetes. This is your storage levels of sugar, right? They're completely full. You're going to take in a meal and you're going to have more sugar. And what's going to happen? It's all going to spill over into the blood. So the blood sugar levels go up. There's nothing it can do. It can't store anymore. So for a while, your body can compensate, but what does insulin do? So now you're diabetic, and this is what happens every mealtime. Your storage is filled up. Every time you eat, the sugar spills out into the blood.
The disease creeps up on its victims unannounced until suddenly serious health problems appear.
Hello, Dr. Bussmann. Good morning. The elevated blood sugar levels carry the threat of complications. Many diseases can develop. Microvascular problems are the main concern and can occur in the eyes and kidneys. Nerves as well, because they could possibly be damaged by narrowed blood vessels. The major blood vessels in the neck and heart are also at risk. That means people with diabetes face a statistically higher risk of heart attack than people who've actually already had one and who don't have diabetes. One of the most feared complications is diabetic foot. It happens when the nerves no longer function correctly. The feet may then no longer feel many sensations, and people step on things. They get wounds on their feet and legs, but don't notice them. These then become infected. That can lead to amputation begin.
In 1921, Canadian doctors Frederick Banting and Charles H. Best discovered insulin and made industrial production possible. The revolutionary innovation saved thousands of lives. Children who were facing certain death were treated with spectacular success.
Yet, if it's a dietary disease, the cure is going to have to be dietary. You can't take a dietary disease and treat it with drugs and pretend that that's going to make things better. But yet, that's what we've done. We've taken a disease which is dietary in nature, and we've prescribed you drugs that suppress the symptoms. It's not going to make it better, and it hasn't. Well, as you take insulin to take care of that problem, the body is going to take that excess sugar and force it back into the body. So what happens to that? Your body is just going to store it as fat. In other words, this insulin is going to make you gain weight. And if you've ever taken insulin, you know already that's exactly what happens. But this is the problem. If you continue to do this day after day, year after year, all you do is gain weight, but it doesn't make you any better because all that sugar is still in your body. If you're taking insulin, all you're doing is taking all that garbage and shoving it back into the house. Well, that's not going to help. That's not going to make things better. In fact, over time, it's just going to make things worse. The only rational treatment for diabetes, so this is the situation now in diabetes, your cup is completely full. The only way that's going to make you better is to start draining it off. So that's what you do. So as you fast, what happens? A little bit of this water is going to come out and it's going to get burned off. The next time you fast, a little bit more of this water is going to come and it's going to get drained off. But as you go, is eventually your stores are going to come down. It won't spill over into the blood. You're basically just forcing the body to burn off that sugar. But as you do, you reduce the stores of sugar and you get better. Your diabetes gets better. And so he's had diabetes for about 10 years now, and he's had a few complications, including some kidney disease, which is why he was here in this office. And we started him in June of 2013. And we started him with a fasting regimen as opposed to the amount of insulin that he had. So this is Richard and his wife. Oh, you can't see that very well. And this is what's happened to his weight. So his weight, starting just above 250, has been steadily coming down. And it's down to 210. His waist size has continued to come down. And his hemoglobin A1C, which is the measure of his sugars, has stayed relatively stable, below 7%. And this is him now. So if you look at what has happened to his insulin dose, so he started off with 55 units of insulin. And within, 6 weeks, he was off of all his insulin. His sugars are doing fine, and he's off of all his medications. His levels of A1C are no longer at a level where you could make this case that he is diabetic. In other words, you could say that his diabetes has been cured. By using these kind of simple understanding of diabetes, you can see that this is actually the rational, but also the natural way to cure diabetes. We're not talking about piling on more drugs for you. I mean, you go to some of these places, they'll tell you to take these experimental drugs and they want you to sign you up for drug trials. No. What we're doing has been done for thousands of years and is in fact exactly the way they used to treat diabetes. But they understood that it was a dietary disease. It has to be treated with dietary measures.